like this h1 tags. So as you can see, it just says this is a test paragraph, right? Now the next one I want to talk to you about are HTML links. So for example, let's say on this page, if I click on invite and it takes me to another link or another page, there's basically an HTML link tag that allows me to do this. Now let me show you what I mean. So for example, let's say I want the user to say something like click this link, right? And once the user click this link, I want to take the user to, freecodecamp.com or I want to take the user to google.com. So what we can just do is to say, I'm going to remove this real quick. We open a new tag, but this time around we're using an A tag, right? And then I'm going to close it. So once I close it, I'm going to have the content in here. So I can say click this link, right? But now there's something different with this. This is when I'm introducing you to what we call HTML attributes. Now, if you don't understand this now, you don't need to worry because I'm going to have a whole section dedicated to talking about HTML attributes. So HTML attribute just shows me what parameters a tag needs to take. For example, this A tag is used for redirecting a user to another link or sending a user to another page, but it needs to know what page it wants to send the user to. So for example, once a user clicks on this click the link, we need to specify the link that we want to take the user to. So it needs to have an attribute, and the name of this attribute is href. And this is how we input attributes in HTML tags. In the opening tag, we leave a space and we type the name of the attribute and we say equals to, and we use this quote. Now in this quote, we specify the value of that attribute. So in this case, the value of this attribute is the link I want to take the user to, right? So let's say I say google.com. Now if I run this, you're going to see that we have like a blue color with underline that is underlined. And if I drag this right here, so I'm just going to go back to that. And let's say I drag this right here. Okay, so it gives us an error. It says repli.co/google.com. Now this is because I didn't define that is an external link, so it's thinking that is a link under this particular web page. So what you need to do is just to say https. So basically specify it as a new link on its own. So once I run that and it runs again, if I take this, if you look at the left bottom corner, you can see that it's showing me that I'm going to go to https google.com. If I take this and paste this here, it opens google.com. So that is the basic way of creating a link, right? And don't worry about the attributes for now. I'm going to talk more about that soon. Now we are going to talk more about HTML attributes. So a while ago, I showed you how we used a simple HTML attribute to show the link that we want the user to go to once they click on this click the link button or this click the link text. But now I want to talk more about what this attribute actually is, why we use it, how do we use it, and different tags where we can use this. So as I said a while ago, the attribute basically gives more information about the element or the tag. So for example, this A tag, it needed an information, and that information it needed is the link we want to send the user to. So once the user clicks on click the link, we want to send the user to google.com. Now there are other tags that actually need us to, specify different things. That's when we use the HTML attribute. For example, we have the img, which is also known as the image tag, and this needs an HTML attribute that specifies where or the source of that image that we want to show. So before we go into that, let me quickly go through again how we specify, how we create HTML attributes. So as I said, in the tag, in the opening tag, we write the name of the attribute and what that attribute contains. So basically like the value of that attribute, right? So for us to do this now, let's test it on another tag. So let me show you how we can display an image on your HTML page. So right here, we want to display a simple image. So what we can just do is to say img, right? And we're going to close this. So this image tag is a tag or is an element that doesn't need to close it. So you know how we close the p tag by using this slash? We don't need to do that right here for img. And now the reason why is because the img tag or the image tag doesn't take a value, right? Now what I mean by this is like it doesn't showcase a value. The only thing it showcases is the image. So it just needs the source of that image. So we do all of this in here because we want that between those tags, we want to show this text, we want to show this text, we want to show this text, we want to show this text. But in an image tag, we don't want to show any text, we just want to show the image. So what we just need to specify is the source of that image. So we can do this similar to how we specified the link to this URL that we're redirecting. We are going to say src. So right now we want to specify the source or the link from where this image is coming from, right? So as I said, this is the name, and in here is going to be like the value of this source. So we can just take a random image. For example, we can, you know, take, let's see if we can take an image from this page. We can't take an image, so we can just go on Google and search random image. And then in here, we can take this dice image. And once we click on this dice image, we can say copy image address. So now that we have that image address, once we paste this in here, that is the source of where that image is coming from, right? If I run this, you're going to see now that it shows that image, right? Now, obviously, this is a tag used to show an image, and the reason why I said we don't close this tag is just because we don't need to write any text. That is why we don't like have a closing tag and put a text within it. So that is how we basically do that. Very easy, very simple to do. Now we can, an HTML tag can have more than one attribute, right? Now in here you can see that we have this src attribute, but what if we want to do more to this image? We need more attributes. Like what if we want to change the size or anything? So for example, we want to change the width of this image. I want to change the height of this image. So let's say we want to change the height of this image, right? And let's say we want to make it smaller or bigger. To do this, we're going to have to specify another image attribute, and this attribute is called height. So once again, we specify attributes by writing the name, we put the equals to sign, and in here we put the quotes. Now inside that quote is where we put the value of that particular attribute. So let's say we want to make this 200. If I run this, let's see what changes that makes to this particular image. You can see now that the image is shorter, and I can also do the same thing to the width. What if I want to reduce the width or increase the width? I'm just going to do width equals, then we put the column, the quote, and then we also have the size. Let's say the size is also 200, and we run that. So once we run that, you can see that the width has also decreased. So this is basically how we can do this. So we can also have another attribute called alt. Now this alt attribute basically tells us, like, let's say more information about this image. So let's say we just want to say the image contains a dice, right? We say alt equals, we put quotes, and we can say something like this image contains a dice. Now once we run this, we're gonna see that this has a description of this image contains a dice. So we don't see this, right? But for example, if you go to the, let's say you get the source of this image or whatever, once it's coming with a description, it comes with this alt description which says this image contains a dice. Now this is not what is shown to a user, right? But this is basically part of the attribute of this image. So there are also various attributes of different things we can use, right? And for example, right in here where we have this paragraph, so let me just get rid of this image because we don't need it. So right here where we have this paragraph, let's say we want to show, like, I don't know, maybe another information of this paragraph. So something like once a user clicks on this, right, or once the user hovers over this, we want to show that this is a new paragraph or something like that. We use a title attribute. Now, this is not really widely used, but just an example of what attributes are. Let me say I say title equals this. So, and I'm just going to say test. Once I run this, I'm going to wait for that to show. So if I come to this paragraph right here, you can see that when I over this, you can see that there's a small button that comes up that says test. So that's just another useful attribute. Now, as I said, there are various attributes, and it's very easy to make mistake while defining attributes. So you must make sure, let me go through it again. You must make sure that you have the name of the attribute, you put the equal sign, you put the double quotes, and in there you put the value of that attribute. If you do that, you can't go wrong. Now let's talk more about HTML paragraphs. So in here, I briefly talked about what paragraphs are and how we can use them. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of this title attribute that I added to the paragraph. So as I said, we talked about this paragraph right here, but now I want to go deeper into what these are and how they actually show in your web page. Now, for example, let's say we have a paragraph right here and we write this like this is a paragraph. And first of all, let me just have this like this and put this here. So just to make it a little bit more structured for me as the coder to see. So as I said, this is a test paragraph and I say something like this is a new line. Now you expect that it should print it or it should show it here the way I typed it in here. But no, it's not going to do that. So if I'm going to run this now, and you're going to see that it just shows everything on the same line. But most of the time or sometimes I might not want to do this. Now, even if let's say I put, let me see, let's run this. And then once we print it, you can see that all the spaces are left in from A to new didn't show. So none of this shows, and there are different solutions to this because most of the times we might want to create a new line, we might want to do various stuffs. So first of all, let me show you the first solution that we can add to this. So let's say we want to have a break, right? So for example, in here, we want a new line to be created. So we want this text to come to a new line. We can use another HTML element called break. So it's short form for BR, but it's called break. And what this means is just after that, wherever we put it, it's going to break to a new line. So this is another HTML element that doesn't require a closing tag. And once again, this is because we are not showing any content for it. It's just there to perform its own function. So once we specify this BR like this, it's going to create a new line for us. So I don't even need to, make this in a new line. Once I just do break, wherever I put the break from, a new line is going to be created. So now once I run this, you're going to see that it says this is a test paragraph and a new line is being created there. Now that is one solution to the problem. But another solution, or the solution I go with when I have this particular problem, don't get me wrong, break is very useful. You're going to use it a lot when you're coding HTML. But for this type of problem, I use the PRE tag. So it's basically similar to the paragraph tag, but the difference is that the way we write our code, our text in here, is the way it's going to be shown on the web page. So for example, first of all, let me change this to PRE. I'm going to change this to PRE. So I call it the PRE tag. You can call it the pre tag or whatever you want to call it. So let me just have this on a new line, and let me create a new line. I say another line, yet another line, and another line. Once I run this, you're going to see that the way I wrote this here is how it shows here. You can see that even with the spaces that are put in here is what is showing there. If I get rid of these spaces, let me get rid of all the spaces real quick. You're going to see that the way we put it in there is how it's going to show for us. Now that is a solution to that particular problem. Now let's see it. Run again. So I'm going to run this real quick. I'm going to wait for that to run. As you can see, everything has been fixed. So that is a way to solve that problem in a paragraph tag. Now, let me show you some other, elements that are going to be very useful when writing bare text like this. For example, let's say we want to have a line across this to, let's say, differentiate two different parts of a page.